Hello, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, everyone who are joining. It's lovely to see you today. I am doing an Instagram live with Marie Prince, who is the fertility psychologist. And she's here, so we're going to get started. And we're talking about a very and talking through what to do after a loss, especially around Mother's Day, which is coming up this Sunday in the UK. So we're very pleased to be able to speak to you today. Hi, Marie.
Hello, sorry you got my to-do list.
It looks great. How are you?
I'm really well, Louise. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, lovely to be speaking with you today. And we are very lucky to have your expertise and a chat with you today. As, of course, for those in the UK, we have Mother's Day approaching this coming Sunday, which, like Christmas, like the holidays, like lots of things that we've spoken about in the past, can be extremely triggering when you're struggling to conceive. And what we're looking to highlight today is coping, support, where to turn, if you're struggling with Mother's Day, but also after a grievance, after a loss. So please do introduce yourself, the fertility psychologist, and then we can start talking. And if anyone has any questions for Marie as we go along, please feel free to drop them in the chat.
Absolutely. So thank you, Eloise. Hi, everyone. I'm Marie Prince. I'm a consultant clinical psychologist known as the fertility psychologist. I specialise in everything to do with supporting you throughout your fertility journey. And I guess this session probably comes with a little bit of a trigger warning in that we are going to be talking about loss, miscarriage, and we're hoping to do that in a really supportive and compassionate way. But yeah, please feel free, as Eloise said, drop your questions in and we'll try our best to address any of them.
Absolutely, thank you. So, as I just mentioned, Mother's Day is particularly tough. I remember going through it whilst going through treatment. For those who are on a fertility journey, and do comment if you agree with this, especially triggering if you've experienced any kind of pregnancy loss. So, grief being a big part of this. How can people approach and sit with these specific feelings of grief, especially at this time?
Yeah. Number one, I want everyone to know, wherever they are in their fertility journey, their grief is completely valid. And I see that. One of the main things that people say to me all the time is, oh, I wish I shouldn't feel so bad. And I've got no right to grieve because, I was only pregnant for a couple of months. And no, loss is really painful. It might not even be the loss of a pregnancy or a baby. It could be a treatment that hasn't worked out the way you wanted it to. It could even be the loss of, position in your social group. It might be the loss of just that perceived future that you were going to have. Well, grief is a completely valid reaction to any of that. So number one, it's valid. You are allowed to feel with that. So the words you just used, Eloise, were like to sit with that grief. And I think that is exactly what we have to do. Without criticizing ourselves, without blaming ourselves that we should be coping better or doing more, there is a real balance here between allowing ourselves to sit with those painful feelings and balancing that gently with encouraging ourselves, motivating ourselves to do things that we know will help us feel a bit better. And we're going to talk about lots of strategies as we go on today, I think, but that is a balance that can be hard to strike. But it's definitely important that you don't criticize, you don't blame yourself. You are allowed to feel this grief. And to get to the other side of grief, that bit where it feels a little bit more tolerable, you've got to let yourself feel it.
Absolutely. Like you said, which is a really good point, not necessarily the grief of loss of pregnancy. It could be that, of course, but there are so many other forms of grief as well on this journey. So thinking about where you thought you might be last year and you're not there now, the sort of cruelty or unfairness of this, all of the above. And then, I mean, we'll speak about it in a bit, but social media can obviously be helpful, but also triggering, especially if you're seeing friends and family with kids and newborns and all the things that you really wish that you had, especially at this time, can just add to that weight.
Yeah. And social media is wonderful in so many ways, but I think it can be helpful to curate that. So for some people, and I do this myself, I sometimes just like get it off my phone. If it's not on my phone, I'm not going to get my laptop out and switch it on. So sometimes just uninstall for a week or so, get a little bit of a reset, or curate it. Have an account where you never search up anything to do with fertility. Have that account where you can get that support, get that information, and then have one that is full of like, nice jeans and funny cats.
I remember you saying that's a really good point. And of course, everyone is different, but for those who might be struggling with these emotions, are there any other self help techniques or actions that you'd recommend people explore for these feelings
Yeah.
to nourish mental health?
Yeah, absolutely. So a big part of the work I do with people is really getting people to think about what they need and really invest in what I kind of call the building blocks, the stuff that we all need. So there are the basics to physical and mental well-being. So, things like access to daylight, good quality rest and sleep, decent nutrition, good connections with people, and I include pets in that as well, actually. So these are like the basics that we all need. When we know we're struggling, I really want people to invest a bit of energy thinking about what are the science-backed strategies that are going to give you a good kind of bang for your buck. I think that's really important. If you're going to put your precious energy into something, let's put it into something that's going to do something really good for you. So a couple of my favorites. Number one, journaling. I absolutely think it's so useful, especially for people who maybe aren't big talkers. I'm a big talker, as you're going to see, but it's not for everyone. So pen on paper and just let it flow. It's a really nice, safe way of people being able to kind of organize their thinking, allowing themselves to process the emotion without judgment. Just put pen on page and let it flow.
What about
Gratitude.
like it doesn't come naturally to them and they're forcing it? Would you still encourage people to do it when you see clients?
So I would say give it a try more than once, right? There's loads of things that I think, oh, first time I did any sort of meditation, oh, it's really hard and it's not relaxing. Yeah, it's not. It's hard
Yeah.
work. Yeah. So, however, so yes, I would encourage you to try. However, there are, I mean, hundreds of science-backed, evidence-based strategies that are going to get you where you want to be. So if we're struggling with something, the thing we don't want to do is repress it, is hold it in our bodies. And that's the thing that most of us are really good at. We're great at just putting the smile on, yeah, and we're all fine, or it's all good.
Mhm.
And society kind of reinforces that, doesn't it? Like we don't like those messy, hard emotions. So this is about finding ways that you're comfortable with that allow you to express that emotion, not repress that emotion. So
Mhm.
journaling is one way that I particularly like. There are hundreds of ways of doing it. So practicing gratitude is a really helpful way of getting out of that mindset of it's all hard, it's all rubbish. And when you're in the throes of a fertility journey, it's really easy for everything to seem awful, like really awful. So gratitude is a really good way of saying, okay, I've got this big hard thing going on. And personally, I don't think anyone can make it easy or fun. But what else are we missing? What else can we add in around the edges to build our resilience, to help buffer that? What things have we got going on in our life that actually we feel some appreciation for? And doing that is not about saying, oh, the big hard thing doesn't matter. It's about reminding ourselves that, yes, this is hard. And there are other things that help us process these emotions, that help us feel resilient and get through the journey. I just mentioned meditation, and I always think there's two camps. There's people that go, oh God, no, that's not for me. And that's absolutely fine. But I think people often have got a bit of a misguided impression of what meditation is. Meditation is about slowing down and paying attention. We all do that all the time, but we don't normally think of it as mindfulness or meditation. Yeah.
About being
So
being present in the moment.
yeah, yeah. It's just, if we look at the neuroscience of all these strategies, journaling, gratitude, breath work, meditation, yoga, like the whole list goes on and on. If we put these people that are really good at it into brain scanners, there is a common thread. These people are good at slowing down. We don't
Yeah.
do that, do we? Like, we run really fast. We keep going. We keep going. So anything that helps you slow down. And it could be as simple as in the morning, I'm going to sit down with a cup of tea for 5 minutes. That's it. And that might be your way of slowing down. For somebody else, they might journal. They might do a formal meditation. They might, sit on the floor with their legs crossed. Absolutely fine. But slowing down helps you really tune into what is going on in my body. What do I need? And what do I need to do for myself right now to get me through this really difficult patch? So all the self-help strategies, find the ones that work for you. I've had 3 conversations today about people who said, oh, I really love yoga, but it doesn't really help me in the moment. And I think yoga is all about getting into an uncomfortable position and tolerating it. And if that is not a metaphor for a fertility journey, I don't
Yeah.
know what is.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, loss trauma. Um, we've talked about triggers, especially around this time of year. Like they are reliving, or like people might be reliving parts of the experience, or when you can't continue and you can't see a way forward with your fertility journey, or you might be thinking about a due date that's passed, or just what if scenarios. What would you advise here?
Yeah. Unfortunately, trauma is a fairly common part of people's fertility journeys. Not for everyone, but for a lot of people. And it can be the kind of the small things. It can be that date, that scan date, or that due date, or it can be something really major. Thinking miscarriage and things like that. One of the things I feel really passionate about is making sure that people going through a fertility journey have access to really good quality, evidence-based, quick trauma treatment. My preference, I use a treatment called EMDR, which stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, which is why we call it EMDR. So really, it provides rapid transformation for people.
Mhm.
And it is really powerful for people who not only have they been through something traumatic, a lot of women are still in their fertility journey. So you're dealing with something that's already happened to you that's been really quite awful, and you're still going through it, and you're going to choose to put yourself
Mhm.
through this again. That is really difficult for people. So the point at which I would say maybe think about getting some professional trauma therapy is the point at which you find I'm very distracted by memories of things that have happened. If those memories feel quite intrusive and they seem to pop up just randomly at all times of the day, they're getting in the way. Or the point at which you say, a common one for me is like, every time my phone rings, I feel sick because I think it's the clinic phone in again.
Wow.
Or there's no way I could walk back into that scan room again,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And these things are really difficult for people, but they're so treatable, Eloise. Like they're very easy to shift for people. We need to shift that trauma out of people's bodies. So getting people in front of professionals, getting pretty quick, short-lived trauma treatments will help you continue on your fertility journey without feeling like you're being re-traumatized day in and day out.
Yeah. Could you tell us a bit more about how you work with your clients and at what stage people might come to you for help? Because
Yeah.
we've also up the bio to your website, so people must check you out and get in touch for, personalized support,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah. So I guess I'm really lucky. I get to work with people at all stages of their treatment. And I have to say, if I've got a relationship with somebody already, if I know somebody and they go through something traumatic, I'm being a little bit flippant, but it's much easier to be like, okay, let's just go in and just do that little bit of trauma work because I already know them. I know a bit of the background. However, that's not always the case. Sometimes people will come straight to me, and they come in and we don't have that report and we need to start from scratch and shift that trauma for them. Other ways of working with me, so it's not all just one-to-one. I deliver group programs for people, and the beauty of that is the community. As through the ribbon box, it's the community. It's being with people that just really get it.
Mhm.
And coming really soon, this week, will be a ton of free resources on the website, the fertilitpsychologist.co.uk, to support people with these very practical strategies to help you cope with your fertility journey, to help you cope with trauma. So there's different ways of working. Head over to my Instagram. There's lots of interesting and helpful things on there. There is the one-to-one support, there's the groups, but there's loads of free resources as well. Not everyone will need one-to-one therapy or a group therapy approach, but I would say probably most people will need some support.
Mhm.
Which, as you said, get over to the website. There's lots of good information on there.
Fantastic. Thank you. The link is in our bio as well. So please, please get the help and check it out. And for people who think that they may not need the help, because I remember my husband and I having some counselling sessions when my husband was first diagnosed as infertile clinically. And he said, "Oh, this is no good for me. It's not going to help." And I continued with the sessions and I found it really helpful. But do you think there can sometimes be like a mind block of, um, this isn't going to work for me, this isn't right, I don't need this, and then when people get into it, they realize how helpful it has been, even in hindsight, like looking back.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of my sessions start with, I'll say to people, right, what do you want to get out of this? And so often people are like, I don't know.
Mm,
I don't really, I've never done counselling before. I don't know about therapy. And I was just like, well, look, let's just have a conversation and we'll see where it goes. And an hour flies by and then people are booking in for their next session.
uh,
There is a lot of stigma, isn't there, around receiving support and receiving help? Like, a lot of us are not, I'm not very good at it. I think a lot of us struggle. I will say this is a generalization. I do work with men. I see a lot of men who have been brought by their partners, and you can absolutely tell that they're just, it's a no. And what I would say to those people is, well, look, your partner and I are going to have a conversation, and you listen in and see, just
yeah,
chip in if there's anything. Um, and often what you have to do is have a one-on-one session with the reluctant partner, not always a man, and say, look, why don't we just have a one-on-one conversation? It doesn't need to be a full hour.
mm,
If you're done after 20 minutes, we're done. So we have to be flexible. I can honestly say, in over 20 years of being a clinical psychologist, I haven't had a single session where somebody's walked away going, well, that was entirely useless.
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
People will get something out of it, even if it's been a case of just having a conversation with somebody who can contain their emotion.
yeah.
And if we're having a conversation professionally, you don't have to worry about, oh God, is Marie upset by this? Is this difficult for her? No, it's my job to hold this. And I have my own mechanisms to help me with that.
And I feel like, from a personal experience, speaking to someone who doesn't know you as intimately as friends and family do can often be helpful to be able to let everything out and not have judgment or comparisons or feel like you're boring someone or tiring someone with your problems.
Yeah, it's really important, isn't it? And it's difficult because my job isn't to fix the issue. I can't. I'd love to be able to click my fingers and get everybody who wanted to be pregnant. That's not my job. I am here to help you deal with your emotion. I'm here to help you put you first and prioritize what you need. Whereas when we're in interactions with friends and with family, we're always thinking, like, oh God, I don't want to say that. I don't want to upset them. And oh, they've got loads going on. I don't want to put this on them. And sometimes, friends and family can be a bit clumsy, can't they? And they can say things like, oh, just don't worry about it. It'll all be fine.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably the worst thing we could say to somebody, just relax.
Yeah, yeah. And you think you just don't know the inside out of what's going on and actually how that's not going to help anything. Completely
No,
agree.
yeah.
Um, what about particular suggestions for doing the sort of day-to-day help with coping, and setting boundaries? What would be your Sorry, someone just said, "How can we reach you?" Good question. Please do reach out. You can go to our link in bio on through the ribbon box or through Marie's account, and both are connected to Marie's website to get in touch, or DM. Absolutely fine as
Absolutely.
well.
Just DM, absolutely.
Yeah, please do take this help. So yes, so sort of boundaries. I think that's a really important one. What would you suggest to people?
So boundaries is such an interesting topic. People are not very good at it. People feel like I have to give myself to other people all the time. And what other people want and need, it's easy to look after other people's wants and needs and not our own, you
Yeah.
know? So boundaries in relationships, hot topic in almost every session that I have with people. So number one, you have to work out what you need, you know? And with that's pretty tricky for a lot of people, you know. So what it's not just about reaching out to people and saying, I'm struggling, I need a bit of support. That is an important step and hard for people. People don't know what to say.
Mm.
Some people will feel really uncomfortable and like, oh well, I don't want to mention it because I don't want to upset them, you know. And some people, you know, there'll be some people in your network that just can't cope
Yeah.
with any of this emotion. So the boundaries question is really important. It's about saying, I can give X, Y, and Z, and that's my limit. And actually, I would also like from you X, Y, and Z. It really helps me when you do or when you don't do whatever it is, you know. So
Do you,
boundaries in relationships are tricky, and in my experience, tend to be informed by whole lifetime's worth of interaction.
mhm.
Sorry, I spoke over you, Eloise.
Oh, so do you think it's worth saying to people you feel comfortable with, this is what's happening at the moment. I would either really love you to ask me about it, or please could you stay away from the topic, so that other people know what to do without feeling like, oh, I haven't asked or commented and I don't want them to feel like I'm not interested, or going the other way and thinking, oh, I've upset my friend or whoever it might be, even granddaughter or daughter or sister or whatever, whoever, by bringing it up too much when it's clearly triggering.
Yeah, it's really, really important that we tell people what we do and don't want and need, you
Mhm.
know. And that's such a gift with people. I am so appreciative when somebody says to me, oh, can you please make sure you do this or don't do this? That would really help me. Great, easy. You know, I'm not then left thinking, oh, I'm not quite sure how to play this, you know. If and this might at risk this is a bit tough love, I think, so I always get people's permission before I kind of mention this in sessions, but I want you to take responsibility for how you show up in relationships, because how much time have we wasted thinking, God, well, I just wish they would do this and I wish they would
Yeah,
say that,
yeah,
but they might not, they maybe
yeah,
don't know to do that.
100%.
So I really encourage people to say, what can you do? And one of my mentors taught this to me. So if I'm pointing my finger like this at you, Eloise, and like, you're really upsetting me, there are three fingers pointing back at me. One at the trigger, there's three at me. I am the person that needs to take responsibility for this. The greatest burden is on me to manage this
Mm.
relationship. And I think a lot of people find that pretty mind-blowing, like that they can have a say in what their relationships look like. I think a lot of people really struggle with that. So although I'm just doing like, you know, a silly little pointy finger here, that's often a piece of work for people to really look at. So managing your relationship boundaries, really important. It's not just relationships, your time, your energy. These are precious, precious commodities. So thinking about what can you afford to give and what do you not want to give? Where are you giving and ended up feeling resentful? So that's a clear indicator that your own boundaries have been violated, you know.
Yeah,
So thinking, getting intentional, really thinking what is okay for me. And maybe this weekend coming up to Mother's Day, if this feels really difficult for you, you maybe have to be a bit clearer, a bit stronger around your boundaries, and you take responsibility for prioritizing what you need. And I say that with compassion and knowing that it's not as easy as I'm making it
yeah,
sound.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, I love that advice. And what about sort of defaulting to what others expect of you, that pressure to perform and be what you think other people need you to be or want you to be?
Yeah. This goes back, I think, to something I said a few minutes ago about slowing down, you know? So people carry a lot of fear around, well, what would they think of me if I didn't do that?
Yeah.
You know, someone said to me this morning, like, oh, well, I always have to be the strong one. And I was like, where's the evidence for that? Like, has anybody ever said that to you? What's made you feel like that? And actually, when we looked at it, that story that she was telling was coming entirely from her. It was entirely her internal dialogue, you know?
Or worrying about
So,
letting someone down.
yeah, and if they can't rely on me,
Mm.
what do they think of me? And what do I think of myself if I'm not always this strong person that I'm trying to be, So just getting really clear and slow so that you've got a breath. You've just got one breath to be like, how do I want to show up in this moment? Do I want to repeat the pattern that I normally repeat? Do I want to be that person that says, yeah, sure, no problem, I'll do it? Give yourself one beat, one breath.
Mm.
That is enough time to slow down and say, do I want to go down the usual pattern, or can I make a small change here?
Mm.
And I get that isn't easy to do, but it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
So when we so easily get in those positions, don't we, where we feel like, oh, this is impossible, I can't change anything. But you can. You definitely can start to make small changes. And I think slowing down and prioritizing what you need, they're probably the starting points, I think.
Love that. Thank you. Thank you. For anyone else who's just tuned in, please do head to our link in bio to find out more about how Marie can help you with all sorts of amazing resources, one-to-one and more. So yes, please do head to our link in bio. What about for a sort of a partner or friend who's experienced pregnancy loss? So the flip side, how can someone support their friend?
So this might sound really obvious, but be kind. Um, Probably the simplest advice is normally the correct advice. Be kind, be patient, be gentle. You know, if you don't know, and I don't think we often do completely know what our friends and family need, ask them. And it might be very gentle. It might just be a text message. It might just be as simple as, I'm thinking of you. Do you do you want to call? Do you want to call later? Do you want to go for a walk later? Let me know what you need. Ask people. I see so many people that feel so let down by their friends and family, and when we unpick it, they haven't told their friends and family how they feel, and
Yeah.
equally, their friends and family haven't asked.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
but if your friend comes back and says, no, absolutely fine, I think we have to respect that too.
Mm-hmm.
So consistently show up, like, remember every so often to just check in, to send that message, to, include people in invitations, because you've been there, on a fertility journey. At times you just want to retreat. You want to close the curtains and shut the door, and you might pull back. And so many people tell me that, like, yeah, I just can't face seeing anyone at the minute. And I would ask, if your friend is going through this, please respect that, and just keep checking in, and don't be offended if they're not ready to reach out and engage with that.
I love that advice. Thank you. And how would someone know if they're ready to take the step of reaching out to you, for example, for
Yeah.
support?
So, not everyone will need therapy, and I think that's important to say. However, the point at which you feel, and this is a common thing people say to me, is like, I can't get this out of my head. I can think of nothing else. I would say that's probably a time to get a bit of professional
Mm-hmm.
support. So we want you to be able to live your life. Yes, this is hugely important, and your fertility journey is, such a key important factor in your life, and you're allowed to have some downtime, and you're allowed to have some pleasure even whilst you're navigating this really tough journey. So the point at which you think life has stopped, I'm not seeing friends, I'm not doing stuff, I'm not enjoying my work, I'm not sleeping, they are all kind of good indicators that it's maybe time to get a bit of help and a bit of support.
And when people come to you, how would they know whether they need one-to-one session, support sessions, online sessions, group sessions? How would you sort of navigate what might be best for people?
Yeah. So I think the people who have got a good support network and they feel like actually there's loads of people I can turn to, but there's some things that they just don't want to quite say to their network. They're probably the people that want the one-to-one support. Or if somebody's very anxious about being in a group setting, they'll be like, oh no, group's not for me. People will tell me, oh no, group, no. And other people are like, yeah, I'm looking for that community. Yeah. So it's a conversation I will have with people, but the decision is, it's normally quite clear for people. The benefit of the group work is you just get so much more. So you turn up to a group where you can be seen in all your authentic self. You can come with your grief or your fear or your anxiety, and you're in a group of people that go, yeah, get it. That is just
Can
so
you
validating.
do?
Sorry, Eloise, I glitched.
Can you stay anonymous if you want to?
So in the group, you can just keep your camera off because it's an online group. I will always encourage you to be really brave. I will encourage you to put your camera on and show up, because it's so validating for you to say, here's all the things I'm really scared about, here's all the things I don't like about myself right
Yeah,
now, and a group of people to say, yeah, we feel the same,
yeah,
which is 9 out of 10 times what
absolutely.
happened.
Yeah, I bet. I bet. This has been so helpful, Marie. Thank you so much. As I mentioned before, please do tap our link in bio or head to Marie's Instagram to contact her directly for further support and to download your amazing support packs and the journal prompts and everything that's coming this week as well. Worth getting in touch right now, as you know, it is a great week of all the support that you're giving ahead of not just Mother's Day, but just for anyone on a fertility journey, wherever you are. Couples, one-to-one, whatever you're looking for, you provide. So really, really appreciate your time today, Marie. Thank you so much. And
Thank you
thank
so much, Eloise. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everyone that's been watching as well.
all right. We'll speak soon. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye. Bye.